All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christine Anderson. I am the Public Affairs and Communications Manager for the Texas Real Estate Commission and the Appraiser Board. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days to join us today. We're really excited to have two very special speakers this afternoon join us, our Chair of the Commission, Scott Kesner, and our Executive Director, Chelsea Buckholtz, who are here today to hear from you. So quick housekeeping things, and then I'm just going to hand this right over to them for the presentation. We welcome and actually encourage conversation through this session. So if you have questions or comments, feel free to post those questions in the chat box if you're not feeling up for unmuting yourselves and asking a question. I'd be happy to read your questions to the chair or executive director as we go. Otherwise, you can also hover over the screen. There's a raise your hand button. You can raise your hand and we'll make sure to get you off mute, and you can ask your question as we go along. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to the people you actually want to hear from today. Please, Chelsea, if you want to go ahead and get started.
Fantastic. Thanks, Christine. I'm Chelsea Buckholtz, Executive Director for TREC. This is a new position for me, though it's occurred to me that at some point I will no longer be new. I don't know when that is exactly, but I started in this position in January. It has been very different than I expected, thanks to COVID-19. I expected to spend the spring and the summer traveling the state, meeting many of you and hearing from you in person. And of course, that has not, we have not had the opportunity to do that. So I really am itching to get out to see your faces in person, but I'm thankful that we have the technology here to do this remotely. It has allowed me to spend some time with our staff and internally to determine how we can best operate and really how best we can serve our license holders. My focus is people, and that means those that work here and those that we serve, which is you. So I'm very thankful that you would join us today. Scott and I have done several of these remote meetings over the course of the spring and the summer, and this is our last one statewide. We're very grateful to be able to do this.
Hey, Chelsea, really quick, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to remind everyone that one thing I didn't say, just in case it's not clear, is that everyone is on camera as well. So while I'm recording it, just a friendly reminder, you are on camera. So if you don't want to be on camera, you can go ahead and X out that little camera button right next to where that raised hand button is, and you can turn off your camera. So if you didn't want to be on recording and have it, when we share this later, your face will be in the recording. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. I'm sorry for the interruption.
So we're not encouraging you to get off camera. It's nice to see your faces.
It is, yes.
To know who we're talking to. So thanks those of you who are showing yourselves.
It is.
Sometimes
nice
I do that, and then other times I want to be a little anonymous and just kind of, I'm one of those dots at the bottom, right? Anyway, a few things about myself. I am new to real estate. I joined the commission as general counsel in March of, was it 2019? 2019, that's right. I'm all confused on my years because 2020 seems very long. And then became executive director in January. So I'm learning as I go as far as this industry, but I am not new to state government and state agencies. That's how I've really grown up. I started with Governor Perry as one of his lawyers and policy advisors, and then moved into a few other state agencies before coming here. So I am, in every job I've ever had, I've learned the subject matter on the job. I find that to be very exciting. And in the meantime, we have a lot of real estate expertise in our office that's filling in some of the blanks. A few things happening at the commission that I wanted you to be aware of, and then we've got a few slides we want to go through, and then we want to have plenty of time to hear from you. So get your questions ready, or if you have anything you think needs to change at the commission or ways in which we can support your work, be ready to talk about those if anything comes to mind. A few things. we are in our last week of receiving comments on our changes to promulgated forms. There were changes that the commission voted to propose in August. There were also forms proposed in May. And because of comments that were made after that May meeting, these forms are being reproposed after considering your comments. So they were reproposed in August, and we are in a comment period now, which is the opportunity for license holders to review the proposed changes and make comments before they are potentially adopted by the commission in November. So the last day for comments is this Sunday. You can go to our website and see details on how to make those comments and to see the changes to those forms. The changes include changes to how we treat the option fee, and then also how we address leases in our contracts. So I have a feeling that Christine is going to send a link to you in the chat that makes it easy for you to know how to make some comments.
It's already in there.
Awesome. Additionally, the commission adopted changes to the CE requirements, and those changes go into effect February 1st. And the change to that is that within your 18 hours of CE requirements in order to renew, there will be a requirement for 3 hours of contracts. Not a specific contracts course, but any course that has contract subject matter that would be helpful to your work. So I want to make sure you know about that. We have a lot of information on our website, and more is forthcoming. We'll have a tool in a few weeks available to you that allows you to see what you may have already taken in your education history that could qualify, and then also to do a search for classes that qualify. That should be on our website in October. Also,
I'm sharing that article as well. Sorry, Chelsea.
I noticed that Leslie Lerner is joining us today. She is leading our Broker Responsibility Working Group, which is a group appointed by the commission to examine the broker requirements. Do we need to toggle the education requirements and the experience requirements? They have a laundry list of items that they're reviewing, and that work is very important and will inform the commission on potential changes. So I want you to be aware that that work is ongoing, and if you would like to be a part of that or participate in those meetings, there's information on our website as to when the next meeting is, and you can listen in. It's pretty easy now that we're doing everything remote. Speaking of remote, our agency is primarily remote right now. We're about 90% working from home. The only things that we're doing at the office, I come to the office quite regularly because I have a 3-year-old, and it's much easier to get work done if I'm not at my house with my 3-year-old. But for the most part, we have only folks processing the mail and then the money that comes in the mail. At the office, everyone else is working from home. So if you call our agency, you may hear a dog barking in the background or a kid chattering. Probably that's not the first experience for you given our current environment. But I am happy to say that we are able to fulfill our mission while working remotely. So I'm gonna pass the con to Scott for an introduction, and then we will together go through a few slides. You're muted.
Scott, you're on mute.
There we go. All right. Thank everybody for joining us. Like Chelsea said, this is like the 6th, 7th, or 8th one we've done. This is the last one. We've got a lot of good information. We're really here. We're going to give you a little bit of information. We're really here to answer questions and see what you think where we need to go. I know some of you. My name is Scott Kestner. I live in El Paso, Texas. That means I'm an hour behind everybody else. Also served the Realtor Association as chairman in 2015. Kind of came to TREC about the same time Chelsea did. I think the governor appointed me in April, and so we've been there kind of together. I will tell you one thing that I'm totally impressed with the agency is they have incredible staff. The strides they've made getting licenses processed, phones answered, applications done It's just really, really good. I will tell you, I'm going to brag a little bit, if it's okay. When I was chairman of the Texas Realtors, we went over 100,000 for the very first time in membership. And TREC, we just went over 200,000. So we manage over 200,000 licensees. So we stay busy. I'm going to have Chelsea start with the PowerPoint, and then we'll tag team and answer some questions.
Fantastic. Okay, Christina's going to share her screen, and we'll walk through these pretty quickly. And don't worry, there's 12 slides total, and that includes this first page, and then our last one has our email addresses, and also an email address for our general counsel inbox. If you have any questions that are specific to you, that you want some help navigating, that's probably your best bet. You're also welcome to email me or Scott. We often just need help from our general counsels, and so that's why we gave you that additional one. Goal for today is to hear from you. How do we best navigate the road ahead? As we make plans for the future at the staff level, and then also as the commission, as appointees by the governor, makes decisions on our policies, they want to hear what is important to our license holders. And so that is our goal for the day. Our mission here at TREC is long. You'll see that it's the better part of 6 lines. But the bottom line is this: we must balance consumer protection with regulation that supports continued economic growth in this ever-changing marketplace. And ever-changing has never been more true. So that's our tension: consumer protection with economic growth. And you'll see that in how we operate. I hope that we work very hard to protect the consumer as we license and regulate license holders. But we also consider it our mission to encourage that economic growth, which happens through license holders. So expectations for today. We're going to walk through a few potential initiatives. We want to hear from you on what you like, what do you dislike, what have we missed. Our ears are open. I heard someone say recently that I have 1 mouth and 2 ears, which means I should listen more than I speak. I want that to be true for me. So questions specifically for you, and we're not, this does not have to be so narrow and focused, but this is what I want you to start thinking about in terms of what information is helpful for us. What do you think of our direction? What excites you? What do you think may have opposition? How can we best support your work? And are we acting as an impediment, and if so, how? And then what do you wish we knew that it seems like we don't know? I ask my staff that regularly. Sometimes it seems like you're a little bit insulated and don't know what we need to know. So please tell us that. And then have we asked the right questions to get to the issues that are important to you? These are the questions that we want to talk through. Okay, these first initiatives requiring legislation, I'll pass it back to you, Scott.
Hey, Chelsea, really quick, we already do have a question or two, so when you guys are ready for a break, I can.
Let's do it. We can answer questions along the way.
All right, sounds good. Well, I have one from Salvador. He says, I'm currently studying to take my home inspector exam. With the education changes coming in March of 2021, what should be my next step? Wait till the education changes or continue with the current educational standards?
Great question. It depends. We are cutting the education requirements in half, and you will be able to see that in rule. I mean, you can look at it now, so that you know what is ahead, and so that you can make your decision. If you move forward with your current path, you will need to do so quite quickly, because there is a deadline in our rule for using the current process. I'm one that really appreciates efficiency. I think that we have increased the efficiencies significantly in the updated rules, and so I would encourage you to take a look at those and to utilize the streamlining that has taken place, that the commission really has worked hard to address in the new rules.
Okay, Salvador, if you have a follow-up question, please go ahead and post it, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question yourself if you'd like.
Yeah, and Salvador, if you have, if there's anything specific you want to talk through about your circumstances, shoot me an email and we can talk through it one-on-one if that's better for you. But you, if there's something that the group can benefit from, then feel free to raise it here.
Okay, looks like we're good on questions then. Scott, if you wanted to go over the legislative.
Okay, some of the things we're looking at, a lot of the things we do are mandated by the legislature, so it's legislative action that needs to take place. Chelsea mentioned earlier Leslie Lerner and the Broker Responsibility Working Group working on, what it takes to be a broker's license. There's a lot of talk, a lot of movement about license portability, and that's something they're looking at. Is there an opportunity to substitute some experience for education? Okay. Now, no matter what they come up with, it will be legislative. Okay. Yet at the same time, we don't want all experience and no education. So that group has a huge task, and they're doing a really good job about that. Also on the next slide, maybe some legislative changes as far as the use by drones by agents, inspectors, and appraisers. One thing that would be really neat legislatively is if it allowed us to get a criminal background check prior to them, applying for a license. Currently, we cannot do that. And then one thing that I think the legislature will definitely look at is, how do agencies, specifically TREC, respond to natural emergencies, whether it's the fires in Bastrop several years ago, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's hurricanes, whatever, how can we adopt emergency rules, to help the consumers, but also help our licensees maintain their license. Great example of that is this year when we delayed the renewals from March, April, May, June, and you had all the way until July to actually renew. I will tell you, Chelsea can correct me on this, I think there was 15,000 licenses due to renew in July. I tell all the brokers here locally, and every time I'm on this webinar, if your license was supposed to be renewed in March of 20, and it was renewed in July of 20, the first email you got might show it expires in July 22. You got a letter also stating that it would be rolled back. It'll be rolled back to the original expiration date of March, April, May, or June. All right. Next slide. If you've been on our website, you've seen where you can now track your application. You can track the time it takes to get a license processed. Our call hold time is less than a minute. And we always looking for more parameters to set so we can see how we're performing. One thing that I bring up, and I smile every time I bring it up, is, we need to explore the elimination of check processing and maybe move to more electronic payment. Now, I said that at the Realtor Conference in February and nearly got hauled off, okay? We still process almost $250,000 worth of checks a month, which is just, to me, just an amazing amount of checks that we still process. So we're always going to be looking for ways to improve that. Simplify rules for the stakeholders to understand, whether it's one of the biggest rules that we battle with almost every day is the LLC. Defining what an LLC is. Do you need a broker's license? Advertising is still a big issue in some places. So try to simplify some of the rules so the stakeholders are easy to understand. And then if y'all run across something, let us know. We had a situation yesterday where we were looking for a broker and we pulled up the agent's license, and the broker was not listed on that agent's license, and it's a glitch we have in our system. And Chelsea and I think Tony and Denise, everybody kind of knew about the glitch, but it's little glitches like that eventually, with our new database and our new software, we'll be able to quick. So if you find a little something like that, let us know, because it might be something we're working on, it might be something we don't know about. Okay. And going to the next slide, and I'll let Chelsea take over.
Okay. I think we skipped one slide that is primarily for inspectors and ERWs. I wanted to just mention those things in case those things interest you. The commission is considering adding statutory language to clarify the insurance requirements for inspectors related to kind of a limitation of liability. That goes hand in hand with the potential elimination and repeal of the Inspector Recovery Fund. That fund has not been, is a small amount of money that every license holder, inspector license holder, has to pay into, but it is not utilized by victims very often, likely because inspectors are also required to carry insurance. And so when that insurance requirement came into effect, the recovery fund became less necessary. So there's conversation about clarifying that insurance requirement to make it good and clear what is required, and then to eliminate that recovery fund. Wanted you to know about that. There's been discussion of that at commission meetings over the course of the last year. And then also talking about reducing the regulation on right-of-way agents. Potentially. That's a very small subset of our license holders, but I wanted you to know that that's coming, or that it's potentially coming. Okay, so back down to the second to last slide, the questions I've already asked you. What feedback do you have from us? What questions do you have for us? How are we supporting your work? How can we better support your work? Christine, maybe we just move to the next slide so everyone has our contact information.
Yes. And one thing that I know you guys kind of mentioned it, but something that maybe the attendees might be interested in learning a little bit more about is the contracts course, the timeline for when those people are affected by that, when they will need to take it, who needs to take it, and where they can find that information. I know you mentioned our website's going to have a search tool to find those courses, but you might want to give some information on that one.
Sure, I will. I can start that one, and then Scott, if I miss anything, let me know. So on the contracts requirement, that will go into effect February 1st. So if you have, your renewal period for sales agents and brokers, which is who has to take these 3 hours of contracts, your renewal period is 60 days, right? So if you are required to renew by the end of February, but you choose to renew in January, you will not be required to take the 3 hours of contracts. You will the next renewal cycle. If you wait until February, the 3 hours of contracts will be required, because on February 1st, the requirement goes into effect, and it is not connected to your renewal deadline. Does that help? So for a small subset of individuals, they can take advantage of the timing of that, and will not take the contracts course until the following cycle. But I would encourage you to take that. If there is one comment I received more than any other, it is that license holders need more education or oversight on the way that they complete contracts, that they see other license holders completing contracts improperly. And so this is intended to address that concern.
Agree. And, that February 1st is the deadline. And we might have some providers on, if you have a contract class, you can send it in to TREC and get it approved for the CE. And Chelsea mentioned earlier, it's not a promulgated class. So if you have a class specifically, it's an hour on homeowners associations, and you get it approved, that can count toward that 3 hours. It does not have to be a 3 hour class. It can be 3 1-hour classes, or 1 2 hour, 1 1 hour, or 1 3 hour. I saw the comment where someone loved the proposed changes on the contract regarding the option fee and the earnest money. Thank you for that. I know broker and lawyer worked extremely hard to get that to the commission in August for us to look at it in November. If you haven't seen those changes, please go to the website and look at the changes and feel free to make any comments. I want to give a shout out to Commissioner Wilkinson. I know she's on here. She's a vital part of the commission, and we appreciate all she does. And so give a shout out to her also. Any other questions, Christine?
Salvador asked another question about where he can find the education at the inspector education requirements. Salvador, I'll go ahead and share that in the chat, the current requirements. And then you said, what is the deadline to apply to become an inspector using the current educational requirements? I'm
worried that I'm going to speak incorrectly on it because it's been a month or so since I've looked at those rules. Over the course of the spring is the transition period. So you still have time, but it's in the adopted rules that you can find those changes, and it's about 4 rules that have recently changed that will that provide that information. I'll find where it is and send it.
And those changes aren't currently on the website, like the new requirements on the pages where it explains how to become a inspector. Those changes aren't currently on the website because we didn't want to confuse people with, well, in this time you need to do this. So right now the requirement is what's shown on the website. It looks like somebody's sticking their hand in a camera. I'm not sure if they're raising their hand or not. It's Nadasha. I'm so sorry. I'm probably murdering your name, and I'm so sorry about that. If you're trying to ask a question.
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Your camera is not pointed at you. I can only see part of your hand. So I wasn't sure if that was intentional or not. So
yeah, I'm raising my hand so I can ask a question. Actually, my question, I'm not sure if it's relevant to the subject, but I'm a real estate agent, and I had an incident with my broker. When I contacted TREC, it seems that TREC is covering mostly the consumers, correct? So my question is, what happened? Who's protecting the agent? If you go back and contact Texas Association of Realtors, you will see that they are supporting brokers 100%. My question is, us as agents, who protects us? Who takes care of us? That's it.
Chelsea, I'll start, and you can.
Sure.
You can clean up. TREC's call is to protect the consumer. Okay. At the same time, if the broker is doing something that harms the agent and the consumer, I think TREC would definitely have an opinion and recourse and the ability to get it taken care of. At the same time, the Texas Realtors, the Code of Ethics for NAR covers all members, licensees, brokers, appraisers, whatever. So if it was something more on the professional standards, the Code of Ethics, then that should be and could be handled with the local association. But if it's something that is hurting the consumer and the agent hurting the consumer or broker, I think that would be within TREC's purview. Chelsea?
Yeah, that's right. So what TREC does is we enforce the Texas Real Estate License Act. So that is a set of statutes set up by the legislature that we are required to enforce. The rules that the commission establishes are basically an extension of that law. And so if we are complaint based, so if we receive a complaint from a sales agent against their broker because they are violating that act or our rules, we investigate that, and we that's how we enforce those rules and law. We are not part of employment disputes. So if you have an issue with how your broker is handling an employment issue, that's something that you handle in a different way, through perhaps the Workforce Commission or through like private litigation. I mean, I'm not trying to provide you legal advice, but so it really just depends on what type of issue it is. But I will mention, and I want to make sure you know that we are complaint based, and you can't submit an anonymous complaint, but we do really want to encourage a culture that allows those complaints to be submitted. But I know that that has implications in other areas of your life that sometimes cause those, complaints cause challenges. Does that help you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. I have a question from Denise. She says, I sent an email but wanted to ask if the new contract could be set up to accommodate 2 buyers and sellers with different email addresses and emails. The current format is set up to capture 2 buyers and sellers, but not with different contact information.
So, Scott, I want to know if you've handled that in the past. The current form does not address that. Denise, I did want to just say hello. I know Denise from a prior state agency life. It's good to see you on this. So the current draft form does not make that distinction. But Scott, have you handled that uniquely in the past? Uh-oh, Scott's freezing. He's going to blame.
No.
He says that
Oh no.
Is that better?
I think so. Try again.
Okay. It can be done. Paragraph 21, there's room for both addresses. And on the parties, you can put one party up top and one first name, last name. We have not made any changes to increase that at the time. But you can get it in, and then sometimes you have to do amendments to get all the names in. Like we had one party with 11 sellers. So yeah.
And Denise has raised her hand on that question, and maybe she has a follow-up. Denise, did you want to?
Yeah, I was just saying I was able to squeeze it in, but it just, it's sometimes it's not, doesn't look like you have to just kind of squeeze it in somehow. I just wondered, since we were redoing the forms, if there was some way to, make it so it's in there. It looks a little nicer. And hi, Chelsea.
Hi, Denise. I haven't seen your email. If it's something you would like the broker lawyer committee to look at specifically, perhaps you've already done this in your email, but if not, they look at every single comment. So at every broker lawyer committee meeting. So if you'd like them to consider adding additional lines, space for that type of thing, you just send that in. But it sounds like you may have already done that.
Okay.
And now that we've eliminated paragraph 23, there might be space to put more room for buyers and sellers.
Yes.
Okay, I don't have any other. She says yay. I'm sorry. All right, I have another question. Sorry, go ahead.
In special provision in the contract, if we as sales agent write anything in there, does that, how shall I ask this properly? Which one of them actually takes place? Is it the rule that you wrote in special provision, or do we have to actually go with whatever is in the contract itself? When say, for example, the contract is terminated, but then you had some kind of something written in special provision, like you have to be, agent has to be paid back some certain amount of money for her services or whatever. In case it's terminated, where do we normally go with? What's written in special provision or what the contract says you are allowed to take?
Scott, stop me if this is
for the
wrong.
attorney.
The special provision paragraph is a term of the contract. So if the contract is terminated, so is that provision. So they don't stand separately. And you'll see in the legal update 1 and 2, there's always conversation in that CE course about what you should put in special provision, and it is almost nothing, right? Because to do so could be considered the unauthorized practice of law. There may be some very unique circumstances that make putting something in that line appropriate, but they are very limited. But I hope that answers your question, that if a contract is terminated, so is the special provision because it is a provision of the contract.
Right, thank you.
Yes.
And Chelsea, just a quick question. When an agent has an issue with their a contract or a scenario where they're concerned, it's ultimately the broker that's responsible for helping them, right? So if they're having a hard time communicate with the broker, is there another outlet for them? How do they work through that? Is there a thought process there? It sounds to me like what one of these attendees is getting at is their concern of the communication between herself and the broker. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the broker is ultimately responsible, right? So you need to be able to be in touch with your broker or manager, depending on if those are different, because the broker represents the client.
Right.
Totally agree.
So
yeah, the broker is in charge. Everything goes back through the broker.
Okay. So we've had, and honestly, we've had a couple of other situations in these sessions where that issue of broker responsibility, where does that stop, or where does the protection come in for the agent, has come up a few times throughout these sessions. So just a reminder, again, ultimately your broker is the one that should be the one that you're talking to about these issues.
I noticed that Salvador had one more question
Yes,
about
I was about to
requirements. Wanted to make sure that the provider he's using is in good standards or in good standing. I think
Yes.
it's just I can't see the rest. Yes, and we have a page on our website that shows the ranking is the wrong word, but shows kind of the performance of our providers based on examination pass rates, I believe.
Yes.
So I think that might be a really good resource for you, Salvador. We can send you that link.
I am looking for it right now.
Awesome.
There we
I'm
go.
wondering if it's specific to inspectors or if it's harder
It is specific.
navigate.
There's actually one for inspectors and one for real estate.
Okay. What other questions do y'all have? Feel free to raise your hand, or if you just want to speak up. We are not formal. We're happy to just take questions as they come.
Looks like, no? Okay, sorry. It looked like somebody was talking and maybe on mute, but I don't think that's the case. As maybe people are coming up with any questions, just wanted to take a moment to ask, Denise says she appreciates you and what you're doing for our profession. Thanks so much, Denise. I know you personally meant me in that question. No, in that comment. Okay, looks like Bill has a question. Bill, if you want to go ahead and.
Super. So just a question, since Leslie's here and broker responsibility and trying to figure that part out. When we changed the broker requirements many years ago to require active listing and selling requirements, it took those of us that have been forming as broker or as manager supervisors for many, many years and made it next to impossible to get a broker's license because we do not list and sell. Yet we oversee billions of dollars worth sales of thousands of sales. When we consider this, is there any consideration to going in and putting a requirement in there so that people that sit in a chair like I do, with 21 years of experience in managing, can get a broker's license?
That is definitely on the table and part of our draft that we are recommending.
Thank you very much. I love it.
And if
That
I
was an
can,
easy answer, wasn't it?
and Bill, if I can just add a little bit to that, when we did the rule change from 2 years to 4 years in point system, I will admit freely, I was part of that group. Okay. And when we got the point system, we knew immediately that it would have to be tweaked as the industry moved. Okay. And I think even with the great work Leslie's doing, we will still find things that will need to be tweaked. Okay. So even at the very beginning, we knew that would be a work in progress. You know, we got the property managers added and management added. So yeah, that is something that they are very aware of, because, you know, 21 years of supervising, that's a lot. So that's something I think we will always be looking at moving forward.
Super. Thank you very much.
Did I see Dan Robertson's hand?
Yes, yes, you did.
Okay. I can also see myself in his TV behind.
I know, it's a little weird.
It's kind of messing with me a little bit.
Dan,
Dan,
you
I
can go
think
ahead
you're
and ask
muted.
your question. I think you're on mute. Sorry, Chelsea. Just.
Can you hear me
There you
now?
Yes,
Dan
sir.
Robertson. Yeah, what is it? I think I understood you at the beginning of this, that you said something about going to be reducing the requirement for the brokers, like 900 hours or something like that. Did I understand that right?
No,
No.
it's currently 900. Broker Responsibility Group is looking at, should experience count towards some of that. Anything that they bring will have to be legislatively. Chelsea?
You did it. You did it. It's really just the variables that are being considered by the Broker Responsibility Working Group for consideration by the commission and then the legislature.
So that has to go to the legislature, is what you're saying, to change that, because I'm of the opinion 900 hours is an awful lot of hours to have to get a broker's license. And I mean, I've got an agent or two that has just, I mean, he doesn't have a college degree, and it has been a real pain in the neck, to be nice about it, for him to get his broker's license, and he's totally competent to move in that direction. 22, 23 years in the business, and sold lots and lots of real estate and all that. And I've always thought that college degree, I'm just going to speak out since this is informal, but a college degree is nice, but that don't make you too much smarter than anybody else. Lots of good, solid experience in this business is pretty darn solid. Now, I do think, just to elaborate just a little bit, I do think some of those courses like CRS, GRI, ABRs, and all those kind of courses are good for education to really know the business, but a degree in whatever, you know, not necessarily going to make you a whole lot better in doing the real estate business. And so if there's a thought to moving in that direction, I think it could be a benefit to look into that a little bit. And I guess the other question I have, is there a need for more brokers? Do we have, is there a limited number of people out there to supervise this business that we are in? And if there's not, then maybe we want to keep the restrictions real high. But I just had some thoughts on this, and since this is a forum, I thought I'd just throw that out, see what's been some of the thoughts on it. And I even have trouble, just to expand a little bit more, I even have people call me because I have a real estate school wanting to know, they don't have a college degree, but how can I get the courses to do that? To get my broker's license, and they have all the motivation in the world to get it, you know, and they're probably very qualified people. So anyway, I just want to throw that out, and I'm sure it's been talked about before, but that's my nickel.
It's a good
And
nickel.
thank you for bringing it. I mean, every point you made is something we are looking at. And And I totally agree. My bachelor's degree in criminal justice probably does not help me a whole lot in real estate. So, I agree.
Depending on the point of view.
So anyway,
Thanks for bringing it up, Dan. I appreciate it.
okay. What'd I do?
Mute yourself.
Dan, if you want, oh, there you go. Okay. All right, just in case anyone else is still wanting to ask some questions, some other topics that have come up in other sessions, and I'll ask just to kind of see if anyone's interested in talking about these, were some of the emerging business models that we've talked about, ideas that maybe have changed, how, especially now with COVID, how people are operating and doing their businesses. I know that the agency has been kind of talking about things like that. Did you guys want to discuss any of that today?
I'll mention one thing and pose a question. Have you seen, I haven't heard much conversation about iBuyers since COVID. That may be less of an issue right now. Bill, I see your hand raised. One thing that struck me very early on in my tenure, I went to the real estate center at Texas A&M to just spend the day with those kind folks who do such good work there. And their research is really, they just produce a lot of data that is very helpful. And one of the things that they were looking at is in the Houston area, what zip codes were seeing the most iBuyer traction, I'll say. At the very most within that area, it was about 5% of the business there. And I thought that struck me because that was much lower than I expected based on the chatter I was hearing in the industry. It seems like this new business model is disrupting and certainly worrying the more traditional business structures. And so I thought it was important to me to have that information, and I am looking for ways to share that information at a statewide level, just if for no other reason to calm fears and to educate folks on what adjustments they should be making based on data instead of on kind of the fear factors. Bill, what are your thoughts?
Well, we're definitely seeing iBuyers in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, not a huge percentage, and it certainly slowed down significantly at the beginning of COVID when many iBuyers went on hiatus, but they're now all back. But the reason I raised my hand is Christine reminded me about something, and that's the limited service broker. We've got way too, in my opinion, and I apologize to any limited service brokers on here, we have way too many people that are being sponsored that don't know how to spell the word real estate by a broker in Houston, Texas or Austin, Texas, and letting their agent run amok in Dallas-Fort Worth or vice versa. And I'm not really sure how that covers geographic competency on the broker, and it certainly doesn't cover supervision of the agent who doesn't know anything, even though they think they've got their real estate license and therefore they know how to sell. So that may be more of a statement, but I really wish we could get rid of them in our industry, which probably not allowed to say, but I just did.
Bill, that's something that I think we battle every day. I'm a practitioner. We have 124 agents, 4 offices, 3 cities. And no matter how many agents you have, the supervision goes back to the broker. And in the old days, when I first got started, I was 6'4", skinny with jet black hair. Brokers talk to brokers and you got stuff worked out. We battle this every day where you can't, and ultimately it's going to take a complaint. It's going to take a complaint either with the Texas Real Estate Commission or with the association. But broker supervision, that's why we have broker responsibility required. That's why brokers have to specify who their supervisors are. I'll tell our agents all the time, when you get that contract and look on page 9, you look at the supervisor, you look at the broker, you go to TREC, you get the license number and make sure everything's intact. it is an issue, but unfortunately it's going to be oversight and complaints to clean it up. We have an office, 120 miles from our Midland office, but we probably talk to those agents more than the brokers that are actually in that small town. So it's not so much the area as it is the supervision. And unfortunately, it's going to take a complaint to clean it up. Chelsea, you want to add anything to that?
Nothing. You have done it. Well, I will say one thing. The limited service broker is an issue that I think the broker responsibility working group will examine and look at. So I anticipate discussion on that front. And again, I'm going to find out right now when their next meeting is, but it's very easy to participate in.
I did share the calendar with the group in the chat of all of the upcoming meetings, so that just in case that was not the only thing you were interested in learning about, we do have the calendar that's updated regularly with all of our upcoming meetings on there. So
October 14th.
Yeah,
it's on
any topic. Yeah.
And let me add, the broker responsibility work group, they've got a lot of issues on their plate, but they are tackling them one at a time. And Leslie, you can add to this if you want to. They're not just going to throw everything against the wall. They're going to take a problem, vet it, and get it done the right way. So a lot of these are, believe me, they're on the radar.
He still got his head. Is it Robertson?
The limited service was definitely on our radar. We are just working our way through each little individual item, so we make sure that we have the whole package taken care of.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. Just give another second or two here for people to raise their hand or ask a question in the chat. Like I said, I've shared some of the articles that we've discussed today. Quick plug for getting communications from the agency. If you haven't already done so, I highly encourage you to sign up for our newsletter. You can do that on the homepage of our website, the little slider that pops up. That will allow you to sign up and get communications from the agency more regularly. You can just receive the newsletter once a month, or you can sign up for any other specific topics. So if you're an education provider, any education topics would be sent to you, that kind of thing. So please take a moment to do that if you haven't already done so. I want to thank our presenters today for joining us. Really, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here with us today. And I'm not sure if you guys have any last thoughts or statements that you wanted to make.
If you would put our emails back up, and y'all feel free to get us an email, and we'll be glad to help out. And again, just thank you for your time. Broker supervision and responsibility, a lot of times when I put our office meetings together, I go to the Realtor website and get their frequently asked questions. TREC has an incredible list of frequently asked questions that you can certainly use in your office meetings, and that certainly adds some education. So there's a lot of information on TREC's website. Please use it.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for joining us today. I'm grateful for your time and your willingness to be present and to provide your feedback. There's over 200,000 license holders, so we welcome every opportunity to be with you and to learn how best to serve you. So thanks for your time today.
Thank y'all.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Bye, thank you.